Tonight, on First at 9 this Wednesday the 18th of June 2025. Escalating tensions. US President Donald Trump demands Iran's unconditional surrender, warning that the Iranian leadership could be terminated if necessary. In response, Iran's supreme leader declares any US intervention will lead to irreparable consequences. Adjourned. Parliament adjourns debate on the Israel-Iran conflict until tomorrow after the presenting member failed to attend on time. Remanded. Former Health Minister and family members remanded after failing to fulfill bail conditions. One step ahead. All state decisions must protect and stabilize the economy. President Anura Dissanayake emphasizes as the government bids farewell to the retiring Treasury Secretary.
Cinec Campus Open Day. May masa 3 වැනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට Cinec Campus පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Enrolling now for the June 2025 intake and complete your degree in 2 years.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome. You're joining First at 9 on Sri Lanka's most trusted news source, Derana. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In our top story this evening, as the Israel-Iran conflict in the Middle East steps into its 6th day, US President Donald Trump demanded Iran surrender unconditionally, warning that the US is aware of the location of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, but said they would not take him out for now. Responding to the threats, Supreme Leader Khamenei warned that military intervention from the US will result in irreparable consequences. As the world awaits possible American intervention in the conflict, more than 24 people have been killed in Iranian attacks on Israel, while the death toll from Israel's attacks on Iran has risen to more than 240. As the conflict between Iran and Israel escalates, the US administration is offering mixed signals about whether it still backs a diplomatic solution to Iran's nuclear program. US President Donald Trump issued a number of Iran-related statements yesterday in which he claimed the US, which has not declared direct engagement in the conflict, knows exactly where Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is hiding. Trump said Khamenei was an easy target, but they were not going to take him out, at least for now. He added that America's patience is wearing thin and demanded an unconditional surrender from Iran. Responding to the threats, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei wrote on X, pledging in the name of the noble Haidar that the battle begins. Haidar is an alternative name for Ali, the fourth Muslim caliph. Meanwhile, in a televised address today, Khamenei said Iran will not accept imposed war or peace, adding that the nation will not surrender to anyone in the face of imposition. Khamenei also pointed to statements made by Trump, saying that any US military intervention will undoubtedly be accompanied by irreparable consequences. Khamenei's comments came as the US shifted significant numbers of refueling tankers and fighter aircraft to Europe in anticipation of responding to the conflict if needed. The move comes despite US intelligence stating repeatedly that Iran does not have nuclear weapons capability and was not planning on achieving it. Meanwhile, explosions rocked Tehran as Israel claimed to have hit 40 sites in Iran today alone, including centrifuge and weapons production sites. The attacks come after Iran launched more missiles towards Israel, including the hypersonic Fatah projectile, claiming the weapon broke through Israeli air defenses. The death toll from Israel's attacks on Iran has risen to more than 240, including 70 women and children. More than 24 people have been killed in Iranian attacks on Israel. Meanwhile, yesterday, Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar described the Israeli initiative as a mission to severely damage the Iranians' plan to eliminate the state of Israel. When questioned how that would be achieved, Saar said they were doing it gradually and that the initial step was accomplished when they dealt with Hamas and Hezbollah, describing them as the tentacles of the octopus. He stated that they were dealing with the head of the octopus now and went on to say that regime change may be a result but is not an objective of this war. In the meantime, a number of countries, including India, China and Russia, evacuated their citizens from Iran, with China evacuating over 700 Chinese nationals while processing the evacuation of more than 1,000 others. Meanwhile, on Monday, the Group of Seven Nations expressed support for Israel in a statement and labelled its rival Iran as a source of instability in the Middle East, with the G7 leaders urging broader de-escalation of hostilities in the region. Speaking at the Valdai Discussion Club roundtable in St. Petersburg, Russia, former Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe commented on the Israel-Iran conflict and world leaders' stances on it.
The G7 communique of yesterday justifying it as self-defense is not acceptable because the attack took place while talks were going on. If it took place to give the most favorable interpretation to Israel, then it had to be after the talks were over and if it broke down. But talks went on. The 60-day period was over, but the United States decided to give it extension by going for another round. So this concept of self-defense is harmful. Secondly, what we are afraid is the Israel attack has not, as they intended, destroyed everything in the first attack. So you can witness maybe a more drawn-out conflict which has to be brought to an end.
චන්දුරුසුනේ කාගෙත් මනාපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
President Anura Dissanayake emphasises that every decision of the government should be made with a view to protecting the stability and continuity of the national economy. The President made this comment addressing the farewell ceremony of Treasury Secretary Mahinda Siriwardana, who is retiring from the position after 3 years of service.
A farewell ceremony was held at the Presidential Secretariat this morning to mark the retirement of Mahinda Siriwardana from his post as Secretary to the Treasury. Following his retirement, Siriwardana will assume duties as an alternate Executive Director at the Asian Development Bank, representing Sri Lanka and 6 other countries.
I took up this position when the country was in dire straits. We expended a great deal of energy to establish discipline in the management of government finances and debt. Deterioration of government fiscal discipline was the root cause of the crisis that our country fell into. Serving the country for 3 years in this position was the greatest honor of my professional career of 37 years. The maturity and wisdom the President displayed by ensuring policy continuity is commendable. I must also thank the people of this country. Your support and resilience were a great strength to us in performing our duties. You are the main contributors to this rapid progress. The public service can learn many lessons from Mahinda Siriwardana. He could have said it wasn't I who created this crisis and walked away. However, he struggled to prevent the crisis from occurring in the first place, and even when his advice wasn't heeded, he was still determined to intervene to take the country out of the crisis. That is an exemplary quality. The decisions we take at this moment affect people who have no part in the decision-making process. It is the innocent people of remote villages who have to endure the negative effects of our decisions. Therefore, shouldn't we be mindful of how our decisions will affect ordinary citizens? Previously, some individuals directed the economy as if they were gambling. We have experienced the devastating effects of such actions. The economy cannot be altered on a whim, but must be directed continuously with a definite plan. That is why today, when we approve a cabinet paper, allocate provisions for an initiative or consider any proposal, we consider the impact it will have on the stability and continuity of the economy. I believe we should further foster this economic culture inculcated by the Treasury Secretary.
සිනෙක් කැම්පස් ඕපන් ඩේ මැයි මස 3 වැනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට සිනෙක් කැම්පස් පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
The Ministerial Consultative Committee on Defence convened yesterday in Parliament under the chairmanship of President Anura Dissanayake. Members of Parliament drew attention to a range of issues, including obtaining the assistance of the Sri Lankan Navy to prevent illegal fishing activities and matters related to the release of lands in the northern and eastern provinces. Accordingly, the President issued necessary directives to officials to take appropriate steps following due consideration of the justifiable concerns raised. A tense situation arose in Parliament this morning as the opposition called for an adjournment debate on the potential impact of the Israel-Iran conflict on Sri Lanka. With the agreement of the ruling party, it was decided to hold the debate in the afternoon. However, since Samag Jana Balawega MP Ajit P. Pereira, who was scheduled to present the motion, was not present in the chamber at the time, the Deputy Speaker adjourned Parliament until tomorrow without proceeding with the debate.
Honourable Speaker, I would like to present a proposal. A serious issue has arisen concerning the ongoing Israel-Iran conflict. At present, approximately 10,000 to 20,000 Sri Lankans are employed in Israel. There are significant concerns regarding their safety. Furthermore, it is imperative that we discuss the implications of the conflict on Sri Lanka's tea and other exports. We must also consider the potential impact on global fuel prices as a result of the escalating war. Therefore, I respectfully request that a debate be held today or at the least tomorrow.
අජිත් පෙරේරා ඔබතුමත් මේ කාරණාවද මේකද
මගේ නමින් ඉදිරිපත් කළා තියෙන්නේ මේක ඉතා වැදගත් කාරණයක්
ඔබතුමා මේ ඒකට දැන් සභා විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා
මම ඉදිරිපත් කළා තියෙන්නේ ගරු කතානායකතුමනි ඕක තමයි ඔබතුමාගේ ප්‍රශ්නේ මගේ නමින් යෝජනා ඉදිරිපත් කළා තියෙන්නේ ඔබතුමා මගේ මයික් ඔෆ් කරලා හරියනවා
ඒ යෝජනාව තමයි විපක්ෂ නායකතුමාත් ඉදිරිපත් කරේ
කියන්න ඕන මේ විවාදය ඊයේ පැවැත්ුණා.
This debate was already conducted yesterday.
මේක අහගෙන ඉන්න.
Please listen carefully. Honorable opposition leader, the problem in this parliament is that there are too many leaders in the opposition. You are the recognized leader of the opposition. Please do not encourage others to repeat or present your proposals after you have concluded. There are few self-proclaimed experts in the opposition ranks, and we caution you that relying too heavily on them may result in complications. The proposed debate can be held between 3:30 p.m. and 5:30 p.m.
මේක 3:00 ඉඳලා 5:00 වෙනකම් මේ විවාදේ කරන්න පුළුවන්.
සභානායකතුමා දැන්
The leader of the house claims that there are too many leaders within the opposition, but we must remember that there are 12 parties represented here. Naturally, that means there are more than 12 leaders. As the Pali verse goes, Asevanacha Balanam, Pandithanancha Sevana. I am proud to work alongside these so-called know-it-alls. I prefer this over associating with those who lack initiative. I am happy to work with individuals who are know-it-alls.
ගරු කතානායකතුමනි අපි විපක්ෂ සංවිධායකතුමාගේ ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා හවස 5:00 වෙනකම් මේ ඔක්කොටම රැඳී සිටින්න කියලා නියෝගයක් දෙන්න
First, I must apologize to the students observing from the gallery. This is not the standard of conduct expected in Parliament. Unfortunately, this behavior has become routine. When you grow up, do not emulate the behavior of some of the opposition members. It would be a shame. Accordingly, the adjournment debate proposed by the opposition on the Israel-Iran conflict was scheduled to begin at 3:30 p.m.
The motion for the adjournment of Parliament on matters of urgent public importance, Honorable Nizam Karyappa.
Why not? No, perfectly fine. 20 of us got up and agreed. So I am one of them. Why can't I do it?
Honorable Chief Opposition Whip, I have on the list of speakers of the opposition, Honorable Ajit P. Perera listed for today as the number one speaker.
Honorable Speaker, this adjournment debate was proposed under the name of MP Ajit P. Perera. As per parliamentary procedure, he must be present to initiate the debate. No other MP is allowed to do so on his behalf. If the MP who submitted the debate is not present in the House, the debate cannot be proceed. This is a standard protocol and not something new.
Can one person speak? Honorable members, order please. Honorable members, this is going out of order. Honorable members of both sides of the House, I hereby adjourn the House until Thursday morning 9:30 a.m.
As MP Ajit P. Perera was not present in the chamber at the scheduled time, the debate was postponed to Thursday. MP Ajit P. Perera later stated on social media that he was unable to be present when the debate began due to being involved in a minor accident on his way to Parliament.
Highlighting that women's participation in the Sri Lankan labour force currently stands at 32%, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya emphasised that investing in childcare benefits not only benefits women but the broader economy. Addressing an event yesterday, she emphasised that bridging the gender gap in employment has the potential to boost the country's GDP by as much as 6%. An event organised by the World Bank Group themed childcare as an enabler of women's increased economic participation in Sri Lanka was held yesterday in Colombo. The event saw the attendance of Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya, Secretary to the Ministry of Women and Child Affairs KDR Olga, World Bank Group Country Manager for Sri Lanka Jevrog Sargisian and representatives of several other organisations.
While it is true that women's labour force participation in Sri Lanka stands at only 32%, which is significantly lower than men's participation at 74%, this statistic fails to capture the full scope of women's economic contributions. This figure focuses solely on formal paid labor, which does not account for the vast amount of unpaid work women perform. Research by the Institute of Policy Studies of Sri Lanka shows that closing the gender gap in employment could increase GDP by almost 6%. But the lack of accessible childcare, one of the components of this whole gamut of unpaid care work, remains as a fundamental reason for this gap to be maintained and perpetuated. Around the world, evidence shows that when childcare is available and affordable, women are more likely to join and remain in the workforce, improve productivity and national growth. Investing in childcare benefits not only women but families and the broader economy. The Sri Lankan government has taken steps such as early childhood development programs through the Ministry of Women and Child Affairs to expand childcare services. However, these efforts must be scaled up. Policy options include tax incentives for businesses offering childcare, subsidies for working families, and a national childcare framework to ensure consistent quality. Public-private partnerships are also critical to expand service provision.
Marking a significant milestone in the digital transformation journey of Sri Lanka, the public will be able to apply online for a wide range of services provided under the President's Fund via any divisional secretariat across the country starting from June 21st. These include assistance for poverty alleviation, provision of educational scholarships, recognition of students demonstrating academic excellence, support for individuals with special needs, relief assistance for children affected by wild elephant conflicts, recognition of individuals for their national service or contributions to the country, and emergency and disaster relief. This measure enables people across Sri Lanka to access services of the President's Fund from anywhere in the country for the first time in its 47-year history, which had previously been limited to Colombo-based operations. Former Minister of Health Keheliya Rambukwala, his spouse and their daughter, who were granted bail by the Colombo Magistrates Court today, have been remanded due to their failure to fulfill bail conditions. The trio were produced before the court today following their arrest by the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption in connection with an investigation conducted under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Subsequently, Colombo Chief Magistrate Tanuja Lakmali ordered that each suspect be released on cash bonds of 50,000 rupees each and 3 surety bonds amounting to 5 million rupees each. The Colombo Chief Magistrate also imposed an overseas travel ban on all 3 suspects. However, as the suspects failed to meet the bail conditions, they were remanded. Ballots were conducted across several local government authorities today in view of electing chairmen to local government authorities in which no political party or independent group secured a majority. Meanwhile, party memberships of several Samagi Janabalawege councillors were suspended from the party owing to the conduct of respective members acting against party decisions. Parliament also heated up today over opposition allegations accusing the Commissioner of the Colombo Municipal Council of not following relevant guidelines when selecting election procedure.
The Colonava Urban Council convened under the patronage of Local Government Commissioner of the Western Province, Sarangika Jayasundara, to elect a new chairman this morning. Names of 2 candidates, one from the National People's Power and one from the Samagi Janabalawege, were proposed. A tense situation erupted over the decision whether the election would be conducted via an open vote or secret ballot. All but 10 councillors, including those representing the Samagi Janabalawege, walked out of the premises, while 9 councillors representing the NPP and 1 councillor representing SJB remained. Thereafter, it was decided to hold a secret ballot since the presence of the SJB councillor fulfilled quorum. NPP's Dhammika Wijayamuni was able to secure chairmanship with 10 votes, including the vote of the single SJB's councillor. Susil Kumara Costa, the SJB councillor, was escorted out of the premises amid police security, while the NPP's councillor celebrated victory at the premises. Meanwhile, the Samagi Jana Balawegaya announced the suspension of the party membership of Susil Kumara Costa due to him supporting the NPP during the secret ballot. Meanwhile, at the Badulla Kandikatiya Pradeshiya Sabha, names of 3 councillors were proposed for the chairmanship, 2 representing the SJB and 1 other from the NPP. R.M. Harsha Bandhu Ranavira was the NPP's candidate, while SJB's M. Priyantha Indrajit was nominated by a councillor of the People's Alliance. The name of N.M. Vijaypala, the other SJB candidate, was proposed by a Sri Lanka Pudujana Peramuna councillor. Accordingly, NPP's R.M. Harsha Bandhu Ranavira secured 7 votes, SJB's M. Priyantha Indrajit secured 3 votes, while SJB's N.M. Vijaypala secured 6 votes during the secret ballot. Another secret ballot took place after SJB's M. Priyantha Indrajit was removed from the candidate list since no candidate was able to secure a majority of votes. NPP's R.M. Harsha Bandhu Ranavira secured a majority of 9 votes and was elected chairman of the Badulla Kandikatiya Pradeshiya Sabha. SJB's N.M. Vijaypala secured 7 votes. Following the conclusion of proceedings, a tense situation flared between the 2 SJB candidates. The Samagi Jana Balawegaya suspended the party membership of N.M. Vijaypala over conduct deviating from the party's decisions. Meanwhile, Gamini Karunaratne, representing the Samagi Jana Balawegaya, was elected the chairman of the Kuliyapitiya Urban Council today. Karunaratne secured 9 votes, while the NPP's Nirosh Janaka secured 6. Meanwhile, newly elected mayor of the Colombo Municipal Council, Rai Kali Balthasar, assumed duties today. Our success will only be made possible if all 117 councillors work together by setting aside political affiliations. I believe all 117 councillors must take on this responsibility. Let us work towards uplifting the lives of this beautiful city. Meanwhile, opinions were shared on the establishment of power in local government authorities during today's parliamentary proceedings.
කොළඹ නගර සභාවේ පෙරේදා ඇතිවෙච්ච සිදුවීමේදී අපි දැක්කා විශේෂයෙන්ම කොමසාරිස්තුමිය.
The Commissioner of the Colombo Municipal Council was only speaking of a secret ballot in line with her prior conclusions ever since proceedings commenced. The procedure of deciding whether to hold an open vote or secret ballot is not mentioned in the relevant act. This is why the Ministry of Provincial Councils and Local Government has issued a set of guidelines. As per this set of guidelines, if a disagreement occurs with regards to the election procedure in an election with multiple candidates, names of each councillor must be read aloud and then a vote must be held on which election method would be used. The procedure which secures the majority of votes is to be selected. The Commissioner did not follow this procedure. The Local Government Commissioner for the Western Province said she would work in accordance with the government's requirements. We will take legal action against her undemocratic conduct.
The relevant act has several provisions. An act and a set of guidelines are 2 separate concepts legally. An act is legally bound, whereas a guideline is simply an explanation. Do not threaten us for no reason. The Commissioner has worked in accordance with the act and within her respective power.
Welcome back to First at 9. In business news, mixed outcomes were reported in Sri Lanka's agricultural sector for the month of April, with notable declines in the production of paddy, coconut and rubber, while tea production saw a significant increase aided by favourable weather conditions. According to the Central Bank's Agriculture Sector Data Bulletin for May 2025, paddy production for the 2024-25 Maha season is projected at 2.62 million metric tons, reflecting a 3.8% decrease compared to the previous Maha season. This forecast is based on the extent shown as of the end of March 2025. The bulletin also indicates a 6.2% year-on-year drop in domestic coconut production for April. However, a gradual recovery is evident, with output showing an upward trend since February 2025. In contrast, domestic rubber production continued to decline year-on-year during April 2025. On a more positive note, tea production surged by 23% in April compared to the same period last year, largely due to improved weather conditions. The Colombo Bourse closed in negative territory today as a result of price losses in counters such as Haley's, CT Holdings and Sampat Bank. The benchmark all share price index dropped 1.22% lower to settle at 17,071.44, while the S&P Sri Lanka 20 dropped 1.11% to close at 5,094.31. Market turnover crossed 3.8 billion rupees. The capital goods sector was the top contributor to turnover, followed by the diversified financial sector. Foreign participation in market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net buyers, purchasing shares worth 50 million rupees. That's all for tonight on First at 9. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.